Good evening. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic that affect our life, our own lives of the people of this country, lives of the people of this region, and the lives of the global community. Climate change, disaster risk, and sustainability. These are major topics that are being currently discussed throughout the world in a wide and vast manner. There are various aspects on these topics, and there are a number of global initiatives that are being taken place to deal with these situations. Climate change, what are the actions that are being taken place on climate action? Then disaster preparedness and disaster risk reduction, and at the same time promote sustainability. So Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation, along with its regional partner Asia Pacific Broadcasting Union, we are organizing a regional summit, a media summit on climate action and disaster prevention under the theme of building resilience through media for a cleaner, greener and safer tomorrow. The summit will take place from 25th to 27th November in Colombo, with the participation of more than 70 international delegates, mainly journalists and journalists who are promoting climate action and sustainability. At the same time, they are working on disaster area as well. Then, along with number of their local counterparts, we expect altogether over 200 participants in this summit. So, along with this event, we have organized a series of panel discussions to create public awareness on these matters, especially the climate action, then disaster risk reduction and sustainability in Sri Lanka. Today we have today is the first discussion actually, so we have a distinguished panel. I would like to introduce them. First, next to me is Dr. Ananda Malabethantri. So Dr. Ananda is a technical advisor to the UN Office for Project Services. At the same time, he is the former president of Association of Disaster Risk Management Professionals in Sri Lanka, and Dr. has over 20 years in disaster management. His experience expands over 20 years in disaster management area. Then next we have Ms. Gothami Chandratna. Ms. Gothami is currently working as a program policy officer for disaster risk management and social protection at the United Nations World Food Programme in Sri Lanka. Then we have Mr. Nandana. We have Mr. Nandana Mohottige. Mr. Nandana serves currently as a program manager for disaster reduction and climate action at it's called Janata Action. Janata Action is an action program that lead initiatives to strengthen the community resilience and promote sustainability and climate responsive development in Sri Lanka. It's that whole program related to the community level climate action and disaster risk reduction. So these are very important areas that today we are going to pay our attention. So in this discussion, we'll discuss many areas, including what are the actions that are being taken in Sri Lanka on climate change and the reduction of the impacts of climate change. Then what are the actions, especially today we are going to pay more attention on disaster area. We have number of other discussions which are we going to face more actions and more discussions on climate aspect as well. So along with that, first I would like to turn towards Dr. Malavithantri. Dr. Malavithantri, first I would like to ask, what's the challenge currently Sri Lanka is facing in the field of, in the area of natural disasters? And you can, as an expert in this area, you can explain us the level of preparedness in this country, especially when we face now the rainy season is coming. Once again, we might have to discuss about the floods and landslides and high winds. So what's the level of preparedness in Sri Lanka according to your knowledge?
Thank you. Good evening. I think when you say level of preparedness, it comes at different levels to itself. I think these days we are talking a lot about preparedness in the sense that preparedness for future, taking the lessons from the past and also integrating the global knowledge, the technologies, and also the digitalization, the power of digitalizations to be prepared and take action. So in that context, we have several challenges. I think you asked about the challenges. So the challenges also has, like, we have globally imposed challenges. To name a few, we went through the COVID, we went through the economic recession, and we went through many things in Sri Lanka, and now we are in the debt sustainability. So that also impact the preparedness, because preparedness is partly the investment, because it requires resources and the human capacity and also the machinery. So now when you want to put all these things together in one set, I think the UN DRR this year on the International Day of Disaster Risk Reduction came up with a beautiful theme: invest on resilience, don't invest on disasters. So now what does this mean in this context, in challenges? Meaning, use the, now we have used couple of terms, one is called climate prosperity. How do you use the climate and bring money in, that's a separate thing. But I think I'd like to focus on the vulnerability aspects, which we call the climate justice. But it's not only climate, it is like prepare the people and the institutions and the whole ecosystem, the machines, the programs, the institutional capacity, all that, to serve the most vulnerable depending on the disaster. Because now if you take Sri Lanka, our disasters have also a geographic origin. Landslides in one place, we know the drought areas, we know the flooding areas, we know the sea level rise areas, we know where the groundwater is affected. So all these things comes up. So in terms of preparedness, we have come a long way. I think we can get into that in the next discussion. We have been connected to the global knowledge intensively and very successfully. As a result that we have so many agencies, multilateral agencies like the World Bank, CADP, and the bilaterals like the JICA, UK, US, and all that. And also the many international agencies like the ADPC, many, and the UN system as a whole, working in Sri Lanka to enhance the capacity and bring the right level of knowledge and the right level of assistance, so that most vulnerable people are taken out of that vulnerability. At the same time, this has economic piece. People need to have a certain level of economics to be prepared. They should be able to live out of the floodplains or live outside the disaster landslide areas. For that, you need the government, the private sector. Why private sector? Private sector businesses depend on the preparedness again, because the supply lines and the market chains and all that get affected, and also the people who come to work in the facilities. If they don't come, the system stops. So all that need to be considered and then Sri Lanka is entering into these public-private partnerships on this, so that because preparedness cannot be done by government. It needs the corporate sector and the people working together with the government. So with the support of all the other agencies. So I think I'll stop there. So I think we have come a long way, yet we need to embrace the future into this preparedness and to be more digitalized, more technically advanced. Thank you.
Yes, Doctor, you brought this discussion into a very important state. Now, Ms. Gautami, Doctor mentioned about the international support and the collaboration, the partnership that we should build in this area. So, according to your view, as an expert who working with the international community, what's the importance of disaster preparedness when we take the Sri Lankan context?
Okay, thank you and good evening. I think we all know that the climate-induced disasters are happening. So it's not a stranger to us, like floods, drought, and landslides. But as Dr. Mallavathanti also mentioned, so now the intensity and also the gravity of these disasters have significantly increased during last decades. It's mainly because of the climate change effects. Okay, so what is important is now we all of us here and know the country people, they are affected by different disasters in different ways and means. But these disasters disproportionately affects most vulnerable and also food insecure people. Especially people who are already struggling to live, like farmers, daily wage earners, and also families who are dependent entirely on their daily income to live. So this is a very pathetic situation. And also this disaster, if we are not prepared, these disasters can reduce our country's development, and sometimes it can totally reverse the development, also it can reduce the hard gain efforts. In that case, I think preparedness is not a choice, it's a necessity. Okay, so how we can prepare is most important thing. As WFP, we trust it's the foundation of resilience building. So if we build or if we prepare communities well, it protects their lives, it saves their livelihood, and also it support to protect the assets. So in that case, in a nutshell, I trust preparedness is a core of resilience building. So I would like to highlight again, but preparedness is not a single person's business. So it's everybody's business. So again, I also would like to highlight what Dr. Mallavathanti mentioned. It is so important to build the resilience of the community and also to development of country. I trust, again, I believe this is the foundations of the resilience of the communities and the country.
Yes. From international perspective, now we are going to move towards the local community-based perspective. Mr. Nandana, now you work very closely with the local communities regarding the disaster preparedness and disaster risk reduction. And at the same time, when we take Sri Lanka, we are not a very high disaster prone country. Anyway, natural disasters affect our day-to-day life, affect our communities vastly. So according to your view, what's the impact of disasters in the community level in Sri Lanka?
Thank you very much and good evening. As Janata Action, we have been working very closely with communities for more than 10 years now, and this includes community groups like farmers, fishing communities, and other vulnerable communities. And what we've been hearing from the ground is that more and more the climate patterns are changing, and that is affecting the way of life of these vulnerable groups, because when we say unpredictable, sometimes we see very intense rains over a very short period of time, and the areas where we didn't see floods before. Now they are getting inundated, and there are flash floods, right? So people are, I mean, with this change, there are, as Gautami also mentioned, there are lives being affected, their property being affected, and most importantly, their livelihoods being affected. And we see more, I mean, like the rains, there are rain delays also, causing more prolonged drought spells, where the farmers they get affected. So, but we been experiencing all in all this with this change, the disasters, or as you mentioned, even though it's not very frequent, now the disasters we're experiencing are more localized and being severe. So people need to understand this. Communities need to understand this, and as organizations working in disaster management, disaster risk reduction, we also need to change our approach to address this. More, our approaches need to be more localized and appropriate to the local communities. We need, I mean, we know this is a global effect, but we need to see that global effect, but we need to make it more localized, and communities need more suitable preparedness interventions that will keep their lives safe, and their property and their life, they can continue their livelihoods.
Yes. Dr. Ananda, now 2004 Asian tsunami, we can mention it's a kind of turning point in the whole disaster risk reduction and disaster management arena, especially in Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka is one of the major affected country. So how can you explain the evolution of disaster risk reduction and disaster management activities in Sri Lanka in the post-tsunami period?
Thank you. It's a very good question, and also we should not forget that Sri Lanka has a culture of disaster management from King's days, these tank cascades to taking care of the health impacts. But tsunami was a turning point, as you said correctly. It connected us with the whole global disaster management system. As a result, we had a lot of agencies, the funding and things that were directed towards enhancing the disaster risk reduction and also the disaster management. So very quickly, the whole process in post-tsunami, there were need to do a disaster management act. So Act of 2005 came, and then with the act, the Disaster Management Center was born, and then later the Disaster Management Ministry was formed along with the human rights subject. And then Sri Lanka started doing a multiple, it's called multi-disaster angle, considering not only the tsunami but also the landslides, floods, droughts and the likes, groundwater pollution, seawater intrusion and all that. So the hazard profiles of Sri Lanka was developed to base the disaster management scientifically. Along with that, there were a number of products developed. The first one is called Roadmap Towards Safer Sri Lanka. That is focused more on early warnings and taking people out of the harm's way and all that. So that's more preparedness, awareness, education. Then time went by, and then more and more science started developing around the world, and Sri Lankans were engaged, and Sri Lankans visited multiple countries, Bangladesh and many other places where there's community angles, and then visited the higher level countries in Europe and US, learned the high systems. So all those are put together in 2014 in the form of a comprehensive disaster management program going 14 to 18. And when that was implemented, there are a lot of database support was given. One of the fantastic databases we enjoy Sri Lanka is called Disinventor. Starting from 2007, we have all the events at the GN level, Grams Niladhari division. That's the lowest level in administration, recorded in one central database in Colombo in the Disaster Management Center. And it was, the reports are coming from the full administrative system. And that reports were used to develop more programs for preparedness and response and early warnings and advanced systems like the incident command management system, standard operating procedures, agency coordination, and all that. So with that, this disaster management is an evolutionary subject itself. So we were starting to think about the position of Sri Lanka, how the Indian Ocean is impacting us, how the El Niños are affecting us, El Niños are affecting us, Indian dipole is affecting us, how that factor in the early warning system designing. So the modeling aspect of it. So then agencies like the Asian Disaster Preparedness Center and the UN system and all came together. And then there were another set of disasters evolved in. We call them the slow onset disasters. Disasters due to pollution. Now, for example, if you store chemicals in the wrong place, flood comes, it gets lifted up and all the wells and water bodies get polluted. And then new areas like the antibiotic resistance bacteria. It's a human and also poultry farms and all that. So when that goes, our antibiotic resistance go down. So those are new areas. And then the plastic came, the microplastics, because microplastics can attach to many pollutants and get into the human food cycle through milk, through fish, to other foods. So now in the new generation of the disaster management program, which we call the National Disaster Management Plan 2030, all those are brought into the management plan that include air quality, traffic accidents, pollution, water pollution. So many new areas are taken in, and also the advancement of the digitalization space, the dashboards, the reporting mechanisms, rapid responses, and also regional cooperation. Now, for example, if you get an oil spill, you need huge, very quick support. Now we have a system where we can reach out to India and we can reach out to many countries and bring the booms, bring the diffusers, and react fairly quickly. I think we saw it in our ocean disasters also very recently. So, and then the use of the satellites. We have access to the JAXA, Japanese satellites, the UN satellites, and all that. So the Disaster Management Center, the Med Department, irrigation, and many others, including universities, they all do this science part and develop Sri Lankan systems. At the same time, train the people, do research, and also the most important part, multi-sector, multi-agency coordination, because now it's not the early warning and evacuation and feeding people. It's much beyond that. So now we need industries, irrigation, agriculture, all the agencies to work, because disaster management, especially when climate change is there. So what climate change does is climate change compounds the disaster impact and enhance the disaster impact and make it like little bit way beyond our control. So we need to, now people, earlier they also saying that we should do build back better. Now people don't talk about build back better, now people talked about build for future. So now that's where the infrastructure comes in. Our bridges, hospitals, schools, all those need to, and the harbors need to take the climate change and the disaster potentials into account in the designs. Now there are a lot of good guidance came, including the last week, the UN Office for Project Services put out infrastructure guidance, how the countries can enhance the resilience. Now along with that, now we have new funds coming up, loss and damage funds globally. Now our disaster management plan 2030 is capable of absorbing all those new knowledge, new resources, the climate angles, all those. So the Sri Lanka base is now there for advancement. Thank you.
Yes, this doctor will discuss, especially we'll discuss about the National Development Plan 2030 in our next discussion. Then I would like to move towards Ms. Gautami. Earlier you mentioned about the international cooperation and the activities of the WFP. Now, can you elaborate more on the WFP's role in disaster preparedness nationally and regionally as well as globally? Little bit, wider subject, but you can break the parts according to.
WFP is the world's largest humanitarian agency who is engaged in the disaster preparedness and response.
Yes, actually we know about their role in the man-made disasters like wars and all kind of activities, but this is a different role.
Yeah, but yes, true. But this is the knowledge everybody is having. But our role is go beyond that. We are not only focusing the man-made disasters. We equally support the people affected by climate-induced disasters. We call natural disasters. I don't know whether this term is correct.
Yeah.
But we equally support for all the kind of people who are affected by disaster. In this context, saving life is not just a mission for us. It is our purpose. So we trust saving lives means it's already protecting the dignity of the people and also preserving their lives. In this context, we do a lot of interventions. And in a nutshell, all the WFP, globally, regionally, and in Sri Lanka, we closely work with the community and also with the government, collaborate with the government. So when talking about the communities, we always support and build their capacities to prepare and respond to disasters. But we don't stop our work there. We go beyond that and we build their capacities to improve their resilience and improve their, support them to build the empowerment. So that in other disasters, so disaster is anyway whether we like or not, it's happening. So rather than giving response time to time, what is important is build their capacity so that they will be able to withstand disasters and also bounce back very quickly and strongly. And same times in parallel, we work with the national and all the levels of government. So in Sri Lanka, so we are very closely work with the National Disaster Management Center. And also other technical agencies like Meteorological Department, National Disaster Relief Services Center, National Building Research Organization, and also Irrigation Department. So these are the technical agencies who support preparedness interventions. And going down, also we work with the local agencies also, so that it ensures for us to pass the message to the national, to the ground level. And let me explain few examples about our intervention. But as traditionally, we are supporting globally, regionally, and nationally about the early warning systems. Strengthening early warning system is one of our priority activities. Actually, strengthening early warning system matters. Why? As timely, reliable, and tailored early warning systems can save lives, livelihood, and assets of most vulnerable people. In that case, so we are very much concerned about how we can pass the early warning message to the communities in timely and in the way they can understand, because early warning is very useful when it delivers timely using right methods to the right kind of people. So this is where we are very much concerning our support for government agencies to strengthen their capacities to deliver these early warning messages to the people and ensuring their lives and livelihood. And so as Dr. Malothanti mentioned, so early warning, now we have to go beyond the early warning. So the disaster situation has become more complicated and complex. In that case, I would like to talk about briefly about the anticipatory action. So anticipatory action simply says acting before the disaster occurs. So WFP globally, we are a strong advocate for anticipatory action approach. WFP has been a global leader for anticipatory action since 2015. And in 2024, we were able to expand our program, reaching 6.2 million people in 44 countries through anticipatory action approach. And what is critical and important is we have very limited window between early warning and actual disaster occurs. We have to act quickly. So I will give a clear examples how the regionally and globally we implement this activity. In Nepal, so they were able to activate anticipatory action and support with the cash assistance. With that, the communities in that area, disaster affected community, they were able to protect their lives and also save their livelihood, because then once they get the early warning and also cash advance before the disasters, they are in a better position to fulfill their needs, immediate needs. Likewise, they were able to evacuate their animals and save some stocks. And in Bangladesh, it's reported that 50% of the emergency response funds they have used earlier was able to reduce through the anticipatory action approach. So these are about the regional experience, taking this knowledge and experience. So now in Sri Lanka, we are happy to mention we are implementing a pilot project in Ampara districts with the Ampara District Secretariat Office with the support of Disaster Management Center, Department of Irrigation and Department of Meteorology. So in that way, we are trying to make people aware before the disaster occurs and not to be reactive, but they can act before the disaster, and definitely it will help to reduce the humanitarian impact. So this is one of the areas we are focusing. And I mentioned earlier, so beyond another step, going ahead now, our focus is community resilience. How we can build the resilience of the community in a holistic manner. So we help to build their capacities through training, workshop, and also introducing some good practices like climate smart agriculture practices and linking them through with the other agencies. And these are different activities so that in future these community can withstand the disasters and they are empowered to do by themselves. And now we implement Sri Lanka, we implement all the activities supporting the National Disaster Management Plan of the country. This is a guiding document from 2023 to 2030. So this is about our engagement at the national level, regional level and global level,
yes,
in a nutshell.
Yes, very correctly you mentioned. Now if we take earlier, maybe decade ago, if we take disasters in our region, the death toll we reported in thousands. But in most recent disasters, what we witnessed was the death toll and the affected people and the casualties, number of casualties are drastically reduced throughout the region. You mentioned about the Bangladesh. Earlier, we identified Bangladesh as a very disaster-prone country. Now, we can see they have come out of it in a dramatic way. So, thanks to these early warning systems and the global interventions you mentioned. So, Mr. Nandana, now you mentioned about Janata Action. Now, can you elaborate more on the activities of Janata Action? Because at the end of the day, we want to think about our communities, our people, and the local, the impact of the local communities of these situations. So, can you elaborate more on your work within our communities?
Okay. As Janata Action, we have been closely working with communities now, I said more than a decade. Our realization is, as an individual organization, what we can do is, or supporting communities is limited. Our efforts and things, okay, we can take them or make the communities prepare. But what our realization was, we need more actors coming in, more working with other organizations, agencies in collaboration, which will support the communities in a better way. So instead of Janata Action working alone, we thought of having this partnership with other agencies, and luckily under the Asian Preparedness Partnership of the Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, we managed to, we are founder a member of this forum or a platform called Sri Lanka Preparedness Partnership. This forum brings together the government agencies, institutes, private sector organizations, as well as local civil society organizations coming together to work in joining hands in preparedness interventions. This was formed in 2017, and now we have come about 8 years. And here the operational modalities, we have 3 co-chairs working together. Disaster Management Center representing the government sector. Then we have Ceylon Chamber of Commerce representing the private sector, and Janata Action representing local civil society organizations. We have about 20 members altogether now working together in this effort, not only as Janata Action but as SLPP or Sri Lanka Preparedness Partnership. What we've been doing, coming together to support the communities, understanding the community needs, whichever the way possible, different partners pooling in knowledge, expertise, resources to support those communities to prepare better to face these issues and problems what they are facing due to bad weather, the climate. As examples, what we've been doing so far, we managed to train more than 2,000 first responders for responding to disasters, as well as train more than 1,000 individuals on business continuity management. Like this is to support small and medium scale businesses to run in during the disaster periods without getting their operations affected that much. And at national level, we've been supporting the localization of these global, I said global frameworks and things guiding us to make it more applicable to the Sri Lankan context, to the local community context. We've been supporting to localize these frameworks. So all in all, we are also evolving as a partnership. Our ambition is to get more partners. I mean, at the moment we have these 3 sectors, but we can get the involvement of academia, the researchers, as well as media coming into this partnership. So our preparedness efforts will be more comprehensive and more useful to the community level.
Yes, Dr. Balavantantri, you brought the topic of National Development Plan 2030. It's very important. So can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like what are the key elements in the national? We were when the formulation was done, we were very lucky that we had a global framework called Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction to
that adopted
bring
in
the
2015.
local knowledge and getting the international platform and localizing it to suit Sri Lankan aspect. So Sendai framework is a very simple 4-pillar thing, and the first one is knowing the disaster, and second one is strengthening the governance, that is like how you work together and all that. It's not only military but also the other development agencies. And the most important part this year being highlighted is the investing part. How do you invest? not in the disasters but also in resilience. Now, what do you mean by investing in disasters is like you built something in the wrong place in a floodplain. So that is a disaster investment. Or many things that can happen in wildlife or forestry or any other field. You do something against the nature, you get wiped out. So then the fourth one is the disaster preparedness and effective response, and also how to recover. Like we mentioned about this building forward, how to build things for the upcoming climate change, because we were planning at 100-year floods. Now you can't plan for 100-year floods. You have to change it. So now when you are mounting, and then I think we mentioned about this upcoming slow onset disasters and all that also brought into the picture. But beyond that, there were 2-3 other key elements were considered as guiding principles. I think Gautami mentioned about the anticipatory action, and then Nandana mentioned about the community leadership and communities. We call it like the citizen science. How do you get the community in the decision making process? To do all that, you need to have a little bit of a macro picture. Now, Disaster Management Center led a few exercises that really built the 2030 National Plan. One is called adoption of the strategic environment assessments into disaster management. Now, example is when the war ended, when you had 365,000 people in Vaunia, Disaster Management led this exercise with the support of UNDP and UN Environment to do like a master plan for the north. How do you settle people, not put them on the cyclone tracks, not put them on the floodplains, not put them in elephant corridors, and that kind of a disaster risk reduction mainstreaming in the resettlement. So that's what you call investing in resilience. So Disaster Management Center did it in 2010 to onward after the war. And then again there was another tool got implemented called disaster impact assessment. Now we all heard about the environmental impact assessment on industries and investments and all that. So Sri Lanka added the disaster impact assessment to augment the environment impact assessment. So there was a checklist developed by the Disaster Management Center, and then Cabinet approved, and it was brought in along with the environment assessment. So that is another way of mainstreaming and providing the way. And then it went much beyond in the disaster management plan called public-private partnerships. So the Clean Sri Lanka is socially, environmental, ethically. Those are the kind of programs came. I can cite a very quick example. We have this Kalani Basin, Kalani River, goes by Colombo, and the water of that basin drink by 25% of that, 1/4 of Sri Lankans. It has 3 industrial zones and 10,000 businesses, and out of that 4,000 handle chemicals. And these 3 main industrial zones also deal with all kind of pollution. Now in the upstream, in river start in Sri Pada, that's Adams Peak in the peak wilderness, and there's a lot of deforestation. So the problem is, we have the cloud forest up, the cloud comes, the rain gets generated, rain falls on the ground, and when you don't have a cover, immediately that water gush into the streams and Colombo get flooded, Kalania and all get flooded. Flooding is one, and then we lose all that water. So we have droughts. And then in the middle we get landslide because of the bad land management. Then the silt, the mud and the topsoil and the fertile soil get washed away. And where they end? They end in our power plants that lose the water capacity, so the power generation get impacted. Then since we created a drought, during the dry time the seawater start going towards Ambatale, that's a water treatment plant. So the water treatment plant has to put barriers and all that. And the highest cost of water treatment in Sri Lanka is the energy cost. That is to backflush the sand beds because you got lot of silt from the top. Now, okay, put that picture in perspective. You have the upstream erosion, landslides, floods, droughts, drinking water problem, supply of water to the industries and the people. So now, how do you put all that multi-sector, multi-stakeholder thing into perspective in disaster management? I think that 2030 plan allows that kind of thinking. So I think it's a classic example for Sri Lanka to do a multi-stakeholder approach for risk reduction, non-risk reduction, but upcoming, there are a lot of concepts called payment for ecosystem services. Now, Colombo people drink water, but there should be a way that we can assure that your water is clean and it doesn't have metals, doesn't have other additional things leaking in.
Yeah.
So if you can assure that, probably people may willing to pay a little bit, not everybody. That's where the government can invest on that, and that can restore the upstream, that can reduce the erosion, reduce the landslides, and reduce the floods in Colombo, and also prevent the seawater intrusion upstream. So now you can see the multi-dimensional, multi-aspects of this whole example. I highlighted because now the emerging concept in the world is businesses, governments, all get into this subject called sustainable financing. Disaster Management Plan 2030 allows carbon financing, sustainable financing, and all that, so that the businesses and everybody knowing the benefit can invest on the ecosystems and also disaster prevention in a very regional area. So that could be Kalani Basin, or that could be Knuckles and other ups or down here in the Nilwala area, you get flooding in the south. So I think all these things, the payment for ecosystems, and also the part is called nature-based solutions. We are really lucky to have good nature with us. Now, how can you do this nature positive development? And we have a great plan called National Physical Planning Policy, which takes into account all the development up to 2050. And we have the National Adaptation Plan, the nationally determined contributions, the Net Zero 2050 Plan, Climate Prosperity Plan. 2 weeks ago, I think UNDP released this climate financing strategy. There are many new things are emerging, and we can take all that into account, and then those are the features in the National Disaster Management Plan 2030. All this new thinking in the global domain can go in there. There's enough space created in that plan to absorb all that. Thank you.
So, Doctor, what's the status of this plan? It's now being implemented, or what's the status? Because we need that contribution of multiple stakeholders to implement this, law and order, the private sector, government, and the community. So what's the level?
It's actually, I think Nandan mentioned about this SLPP.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of initiatives here to enhance the coordination. And the disaster management role is to facilitate those coordinations and the agency participation. It is happening now. And then I mentioned about this disinvent database. It is kind of like the KPI. If the disasters impacts are reduced, the number of people affected get reduced, we know immediately something good happening. And if the economic damages due to disasters goes down, that is also an indicator. So your question is like, where is this plan? It is being implemented, but what I would say is like it needs everybody's support. And also the multi-sector approach has to be strengthened along with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, because disasters has a direct implication on the sustainable development. All the sectors, maybe energy and all that. So I think what Sri Lanka's national digital infrastructure that is being developed now And there's an initiative supported by Gates Foundation to digitalize the data in 9 ministries. Now, we need to open up that information to private sector, universities and researchers so that they can also do what if scenarios, whether the government is doing right or all that. So, the disaster management plan also linked globally to a reporting scheme. The Disaster Management Center report annually the progress of the plan to the UNDRR database on the implementation of Sendai framework. So, that's where the checks and balances are, but as I said at the beginning, we went through all triple disasters, the economic slump and all, now on the debt sustainability. So, there may be certain resources needed, and we need to work on those new sustainable financing and other tools, the green bonds, thematic bonds, to support the disaster management sector so that we could do anticipatory planning and risk reduction and investing on the infrastructure better so that our hospitals and everything will last long and resilient. Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Gautami, according to UN's view, what's the role of media in disaster preparedness?
Of course, media has a great role to play. I think media's role is very critical. How I see is media role is you bridge the gap between the science and the people. So you can do different, you can play different roles. First thing, you can turn all these early warning message to the stories where people can act. Now we all, the technical, WFP and other UN agencies and also government agencies, we are technical people. So we issue technical details and we are good at technical language. But as a media and journalist, you know how to touch the people and how to communicate with the people. So in that case, you have a bigger role to play. And also you can fight misinformation. So during disasters and even it's a big problem sharing false information with the people. So I think media can fight for it. And especially I think media's role is so important in building the culture of preparedness. So people are very good at responding. So everybody like responding because it's easy. But I think as responsible citizens, we all have to contribute to develop the culture of preparedness. It should start from your childhood. Then only these qualities we inculcate within you. I trust media is in a better position to support this culture of preparedness. You can reach different segment of people, and also you can address and talk and influence the way they can understand. The media can do the storytelling, and then only people understand. If we say 100 millimeters rainfall will occur, so people can't understand. Even it can be it is understood to technical people. So what I think it's so important to explain what does this mean, 100 millimeters rainfall. So then I think in that case media can play a bigger role, and I trust this every headline you carry is now shape the community action or the response. In that case, according to my understanding, I trust media's role is so crucial in disaster management, especially preparedness aspect.
Yes, Ms. Nandana, finally, now you work as we earlier mentioned, you work with the community, you work with Sri Lankan community, but again, as we discussed earlier, there are many success stories in our region as well. So can you tell us, are there any collaboration with the Sri Lankan work and the regional work in your activities?
As I mentioned to you, this Sri Lanka Preparedness Partnership was formed under the guidance and the umbrella organization of Asian Preparedness Partnership, where it's a regional partnership where 7 countries coming together with the guidance and support of the Asian Disaster Preparedness Center that includes Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, then Nepal, Pakistan, Philippines, and Sri Lanka. So that regional platform provides us the opportunity to share information, learn from each other, learn from the other countries, then jointly voice our concerns in the global platforms, the common issues that the region is facing. So we are linked to that Asia Preparedness Center, Asian Preparedness Partnership, and it's the umbrella where again this network has taken from the national level to the regional level. So and we hope that we will continue this partnership, and more countries will trust this approach and will get into the partnership, and will grow. And Sri Lanka also, our expectation is that as national level, as the national Sri Lanka Preparedness Partnership, to grow into a bigger network, and most importantly a bigger approach. As Dr. Mallavutantri said, we need these partnerships. So we need this coordination, coordinated approach, joint action. So I hope soon we will be able to make this as a national approach towards preparedness, and taking it forward to the regional level as well.
Yes. With that important note, we are going to wind up this discussion. And I would like to thank our distinguished panel for their wonderful support and wonderful ideas that were elaborated here. They are really useful in shaping the climate action and disaster risk reduction sectors in Sri Lanka, and I would like to commend their service in that because they are very high academics and technical community that deals with very important area that saves life and make lives better in Sri Lankan community. So we are going to meet you in this type of discussion in the future as well. We have planned, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have planned series of discussions. So we'll meet you in this type of discussion with another topic, another important topic that involves with your life. Thank you very much and good night.